Terima kasih telah menyempatkan waktunya untuk bergabung bersama kami di online Meetup DevOps Indonesia. Secure your container within 13 minutes. Sesi online Meetup pada malam hari ini adalah yang pertama kami laksanakan dan mungkin akan berlanjut di bulan-bulan berikutnya karena mengikuti instruksi dari pemerintah untuk tetap aja. Saya dan semua tim dari komunitas DevOps Indonesia memutuskan untuk mengalihkan meetup bulanan kita menjadi online meetup yang harapannya rekan-rekan tetap bisa mendapatkan insight yang baru dari meetup-meetup yang akan kita laksanakan meskipun memang keadaannya berbeda dari yang biasanya kita lakukan, yaitu kita saling bertatap muka dan bertemu secara langsung. Perkenalkan, nama saya Mia Fauzia dan rekan saya Wisnu Prabowo. Halo Mas Wisnu.
Hai.
Dan kami berdua dari DevOps Indonesia akan menemani rekan-rekan pada malam hari ini selama kurang lebih 1 jam ke depan pada sesi Meetup Online DevOps Indonesia hari ini, hari Senin, tanggal 20 April tahun 2020. Saya harap rekan-rekan tetap di rumah aja untuk sementara waktu ini, tetap menjaga kesehatan masing-masing, tidak keluar rumah kecuali memang ada keperluan sangat mendadak. Dan kita semua selalu berharap dan selalu berdoa semoga pandemi ini segera berakhir dan kita dapat bekerja lagi seperti semula, datang ke kantor, bertemu sapa dengan rekan-rekan dan juga saudara-saudara kita. Pada malam hari ini kita akan berdiskusi dengan Zhihao Tan. Beliau adalah Senior Solution Architect dari Aqua. Saat ini kita telah terkoneksi dengan Zhihao. Hello Zhihao.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi, please say hello to the audience. Hi.
Yes, hi.
Okay, so we have connected to Zhihao. Zhihao, before we start the session, Wisnu will share his screen. We have several information to the audience regarding to our session. Oke, silakan kepada Mas Wisnu untuk share linknya, share presentasi. Oke. Saya akan menjelaskan, ya, sebentar. Rekan-rekan, pada malam hari ini saya akan menyampaikan sedikit beberapa agenda kita pada malam hari ini. Pada jam 7 sampai dengan jam 7:05 kita akan ada persiapan. Kemudian jam 7:05 sampai dengan jam 7:15 akan ada pembukaan dan juga announcement dari Mas Wisnu. Kemudian jam 7:15 sampai dengan jam 7:55 akan ada presentasi dari Zhihao dan termasuk dengan sesi tanya jawab. Kemudian pada jam 7:55 sampai dengan jam 8 kami akan ada closing, tapi sebelum closing kita akan ada feedback. Kita sudah menyiapkan polling. Kami mohon untuk teman-teman memberikan waktunya sebentar untuk memberikan feedback di meetup kita pada malam hari ini. Sekian pembukaan dari saya. Agenda berikutnya adalah announcement yang akan disampaikan oleh rekan saya Mas Wisnu. Kepada Mas Wisnu, saya persilakan.
Hi DevOps Indonesia. We meet again on monthly DevOps Indonesia meetup with me, Wisnu Prabowo, and Miss Mia Fauzia. This time would be our first online sharing session. Today we have brought Mr. Zhihao Tan from Napoleon to share with you all about how to secure your container in 30 minutes. Before we continue to the main event, please let us show our announcement. Of course, this online sharing session has some rules to follow. First, this event will be recorded and published later on our YouTube channel, so anyone that missed this session could also see our recorded meetup. Second, if you have any difficulties like lag, videos, or sound, please use the feature of raising hand. We will try to help you. And the third, if the presentation is done, there is a session of question and answer. Feel free to use the chat box that is provided on the chat box. So that is the 3 important rules that we must follow on this meetup. There is also some addition. Anyone who entered this meetup will be muted when joining. Please make sure that is still muted, or we will put you back on the waiting room and we can admit you again after you are ready. So now come our announcement. We established since October 2017, so we have already more than 2 years running these monthly meetups. Our meetup members are already more than 2,700. Now this one point, I'm very happy to tell you that our Telegram members are already more than 3,900 members. Now, if anyone who haven't joined our Telegram groups, join us now at ID DevOps. Our website on devopsindonesia.com will redirect you to our meetup group. Now I will tell you about our history. So I will tell you only the short version one. If you're curious more, you could always go to our meetup group at DevOps Indonesia. From September 2019, we do at Mapan, continue to October at Home Credit Indonesia, November at Philip Morris Indonesia, and because on March we are having the big event, DevOps Days Jakarta 2019, so still on November we also do meetup for the roadshow at Shopee and Gits Indonesia. Still on the roadshow track, we do with F5 on December, with Link Aja on January, and February with Codex and ITGTL BCA in Yogyakarta. Then today we do meetup with Aqua Security. Now comes on the next plans of the meetup. On May, we celebrate Eid al-Fitr together, but if possible, we also can do the meetup. On June, we plan with Mocha, July with Indosat Oredo, and so on. If some of you want to collaborate to host meetup, don't hesitate to contact us on our links. And also you can contact us on devopsindonesia@gmail.com. That is all for the announcement, and thank you. Without further ado, here is our speaker, Mr. Zhihao Tan.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Mas Wisnu untuk presentasinya. Kita lanjut ke agenda berikutnya. For the next session, presentation from Zhihao Tan. He is Senior Solution Architect from Aqua Sec. He will share about how to secure your containers within 30 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Zhihao Tan. Zhihao.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So I just want to thank the organizer for inviting Aqua Security into DevOps Indonesia Meetup today to share a little bit more about how Aqua can help to secure your containers within 30 minutes. Okay, so we have a pretty exciting agenda for you today. All right, so first of all, I am going to share just use a few short minutes to talk about the current container security landscape. And then I'm going to be sharing about the 6 top container security concerns any organizations are looking at today. And of course, we are going to be looking at how Aqua can address these concerns through a demo using both our enterprise cloud native security platform as well as open source solutions that are offered by Aqua Security. We are going to have a short Q&A where you can ask me any questions, and I hope that I can address your concerns. So what's the deal today, right? So basically, when you look at moving into containers, containers have got many benefits. They help all organizations who are adopting containers to move faster than ever into pushing out their products, pushing out their solutions. But I think one of the big challenges that we see today is that running containers has got a lot of security problems. Okay, some of them are very minor, but some of them are very serious. And when we look at those serious security problems, if we are not able to address them correctly, they could a lot of times result in container breakout situations that will allow an attacker to get out from the isolations offered by a container, go into the container host, perform lateral movement, and eventually being able to achieve their attack goals. Right, so as a result of a lot of well-documented security problems that affect containers, confidence in using containers has also got hit quite badly. right? So we are starting to see many organizations coming to say that as container adoption increases, the security concerns become heavier and heavier. So when we talk about these security concerns, it's not just the security people who are concerned about container security. Okay, so basically, when we look at the problems and the issues that DevOps teams are facing on a daily basis, when we did a survey last year, a lot of the DevOps teams that we surveyed actually come back and mention that security is actually the biggest problem. Okay, I think I'm experiencing a little bit of a disconnection. Are you still seeing my screen? So can I just check if you guys are still seeing my screen, because I am getting a Zoom timeout. Able to do container security correctly, we first need to understand what are the security problems we are addressing. The first problem that we usually will encounter is what we call open source supply chain attacks. And so this is when attackers, they will start to target the place where you're getting your open source content, getting your open source libraries, and then they will try to poison your open source supply chain. So in the case of this example that I have here, what attackers did was that they were able to break into the repository where one of the very, very popular NPM plugins is actually hosted. And they actually were able to put in their malware into this open source package that belongs to NPM. Right? So as a result, when the developers actually download these open source packages and put it into their container, the malware will get into your environment. Okay, so the first question we want to do is to be able to help your developers understand if there's actually security problems with your open source package, right? How can we actually make sure that they are discovered before they can be rolled into your production environment? Okay, the second problem that we usually encounter is what we call built-in weaknesses, right? So as part of creating your container images, in many cases, you will need to make use of base images that you are actually downloading from the internet. And if you look at the slide that I have here, this list is actually the top 10 most popular base image that that developers are downloading from Docker Hub. And you can see, if you look at the most popular, which is actually Node, right? The latest version of the Node-based image has got 580 open vulnerabilities, right? Even Ubuntu has got 30 open vulnerabilities, right? So the moment you actually make use of an image like Node latest into your environment, you will introduce 580 new vulnerabilities into your environment, right? So the question is, how do we help your developers to make sure that they're using base images that are compliant with the enterprise security policy that has got the least amount of vulnerabilities before they can be allowed into your production environment? The third problem that we see is around infrastructure flaw, right? So when you start to move into containers and you want to run a lot of containers, you need to make use of orchestration tools like Kubernetes and even OpenShift. These tools are very, very powerful, but a lot of times in its default configuration, there are actually a lot of security weaknesses. Okay, so when you are actually deploying Kubernetes and OpenShift, the problem with them is that they are very, very complex. And because when they are complex, it means that it is also very, very difficult to configure them correctly from a security perspective. So the problem we want to address is to help the developers understand, if they're using an orchestration tool like Kubernetes and OpenShift, how can they configure them correctly from according to a common compliance standard, such as the CIS benchmark for Kubernetes, or even the open source hardening guidelines for OpenShift. Okay, the fourth problem is actually what we call is the hidden network. Okay, so basically when you start to make use of technologies like OpenShift and also Kubernetes, you will a lot of times realize that whatever existing security tools that you have, they cannot give you visibility into the system and networking activities that are happening within your containers, right? So the fourth problem we want to solve is actually to make sure that we are able to give you visibility into all the system and networking related activities within your containers so that you can formulate effective defense strategies to protect your environment. Okay, the fifth problem is also related to the fourth problem, because when you start to mature in your DevOps pipeline, you're going to start having the usage of multi-cloud, right? Multi-platform challenges. You will have developers who will use, for example, AWS EKS. Some of them will use Google GKE. And then you may have multiple different CI/CD tools, right, that will actually be used by developers in the environment. Okay, so if you have problems looking at system activities that are happening within your single cluster, you are going to have more security problems when your environment starts to grow and you start to use many, many different tools. And of course, like I said, right, a lot of organizations think that DevSecOps is the answer to all these security problems. Okay, but we know that this is not the case, because if you will take your existing security process and you put them into a DevOps pipeline, you will give your DevOps teams a lot of problems. Okay, because when you look at security processes today, they are actually very slow, right? They are very structured, they're very process oriented, but DevOps is different. DevOps is about being fast, it's being about agile, right? It's being about being creative and using many different tools to solve problems in the fastest and least intrusive way, right? Therefore, you cannot use traditional security process and put it into a DevOps pipeline. It is a recipe for failure. And so this is why it is important to make use of the right tools that will allow you to embed into a DevOps pipeline in order to achieve security at scale. Okay, so in order to do DevSecOps correctly, Aqua has actually came up with a framework. Aqua has really came up with a framework for protecting containers, for protecting your cloud infrastructure, right? And it's really about starting with general controls that will help you to secure your baseline infrastructure, right? It's really about putting in a solution like Aqua to help you understand what is in the existing environment, and very importantly, to help you protect the running containers in less than 30 minutes after installing a tool like Aqua. And of course, when you go into the third stage, it's really about securing the artifacts that are coming out from your pipeline. And finally, it's also about applying specific controls so that we can secure your workloads through more targeted controls, such as implementing an emission control to allow only containers that meet your security requirements into your Kubernetes infrastructure, right? By implementing a container firewall to help you regulate network activities happening within your containers, and also to think about managing secrets that could be used by your containers. Okay, I'm going to start to jump into a demo to show you what are some of the tools that you can use to secure your environment using both a combination of enterprise tools offered by Aqua Security, as well as open source tools that are offered for free on the official Aqua Security GitHub page. Okay, so let me jump into my demo environment, and we're going to talk first about securing the infrastructure. Right, so this is actually a very important topic, because as you move into the cloud, there will actually be many organizations who will run their Kubernetes infrastructure in the cloud, or even make use of containers as a service, such as AWS Fargate or even Azure Container Instances, in order to run your containers. But beneath the different orchestrators that you use, there will actually be an infrastructure beneath. Okay, there will be an infrastructure provided by AWS, by Azure, by Google Cloud, for you to build your container infrastructure. Okay, but one of the key challenges that we always see is that, for example, if you're using AWS, there are actually hundreds of services that you can use in order to make your life easier. But it also means that you need to master hundreds of services from a security perspective to make sure that you do not have any weak configurations that will allow an attacker into your environment. Okay, so in order to address this problem, Aqua has a tool that we call CloudSploit that performs cloud posture security management on your behalf to help you audit your infrastructure. Okay, I'm going to jump into my browser here. Okay, and you will see that what I have here is actually cloudsploit.com. CloudSploit by Aqua is really about helping you to understand the cloud security best practices as a service. Even though this is an enterprise tool, right, but we also have a free open source version that you can use, right? So if you're interested in the free open source version, you can always click on Get Started Now, and you will immediately be asked to create an account. And in the first 10 minutes of creating your account, you will be able to have your first report ready to help you audit your infrastructure platform. Okay, so if I look at this page over here, this is what happens after you create the account, right? So typically after you create your account, right, very simply, right, you can go to Cloud Accounts. Okay, and then once you go into Cloud Accounts, you can start to connect your account with one of the infrastructure providers that you're using. For example, if you're using AWS, you can just AWS, right? Select a connection method such as using CloudFormation. You can launch a stack, and once the stack is created, there will be a role area that you can use to paste, right, so that we can connect your AWS account with read-only access with Aqua CSPM. Okay, and once the CSPM is connected with your cloud account, you will be ready to receive your first report. Okay, so what kind of reports are we expecting? Right, so if you look at some of the sample reports that I have here, there's one report that I have that is actually generated for my AWS account. So if I click on View Report, you will immediately have an overview of your cloud environment. Okay, so according to my CSPM, over here it says that, right, it says that my CloudSploit score is actually a B, and that is because there are some security configurations in AWS that I am not doing correctly, right? So if I want to analyze the reports, okay, so I can look at the highest risk category, and you can see that these are all the different services, right, that we are using, that you're using in your cloud accounts. as well as their security status. Right, so let's look at one of the very popular security, one of the more very popular AWS service that we're using, for example, EC2. Right, so if I click on EC2, you can see that there are many different tests that are running, but I can very easily filter by the field results, and you can see immediately that I have got a non-compliant because I've got an OpenSSH, right, on an EC2 resource belonging to this particular region over here. Right, so it says here very quickly that this test determines if port 22 for SSH is open to the public. And so obviously it's open to the public, and so if I need to understand how to remediate the situation, I can just click on the remediation guide over here, and it brings me directly to CloudSploit, where it will show me, right, with screenshots, how I can actually remediate the problem. Okay, so this is actually what TSPM can offer you, right? What CloudSploit can offer you in the first 10 minutes of setting up your account. Now, first, if you are under particular compliance standards such as AWS CIS benchmark, right? So you can go to compliance, and then it's going to start to generate a report based on the AWS CIS benchmark, right? So one of those controls here is, of course, ensuring that your IAM policies have got at least one uppercase letter, and you can see that in my case, it's a failure because my account does not have a password policy at all. Okay, so this is CloudSploit, and this is really at the base of what we are doing, right? Because when you actually make use of CloudSploit, it's going to scan your infrastructure. It's going to make sure that if there are any security misconfiguration, it will tell you immediately. Okay, and like I said, this is free. There's a free version. You will get the same report that I just showed you. Go over to cloudsploit.com, click on Getting Started Now, and you should be able to get an account immediately. Okay, but the next thing, okay, let me just share my screen again. But the next thing that I want to share with you is securing your container environment. Okay, securing your container environment, right? So let's look at baselining environment. You talk about security infrastructure, let's talk about your containers environment now. Right, so I'm going to talk about the enterprise piece of our solution right now. We call it the Aqua Cloud Native Security Platform. And what it does is that installing Aqua CSP is really simple. It's really like a 10-minute thing. Okay, I'm going to show you how easy it is to install. No, actually, I'm not showing you how it's installed. But I'm going to show you what's going to happen after I install. I'm going to show you how you can instantly protect your container by enforcing container immutability to perform virtual patching of running containers. Okay, so let me jump back into my web UI over here. Okay, so basically after you install Aqua, right? So let me just log into my environment again. Okay. So the moment you install Aqua, in the first 10 minutes, we are going to give you what we call is a risk explorer. And the risk explorer is going to automatically help you to understand what are the containers that you have running in, let's say, your Kubernetes or your OpenShift environment. So you can see that the moment you install Aqua, right? So let it run for about 10 minutes. We're going to start to tell you that, okay, you have got all these containers running in your environment, and they're actually sorted out according to their criticality level, right? So we're going to tell you that there are actually certain containers with critical security issues in them. And unfortunately, in my environment, I only have one container with no issues. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly filter and say that, hey, Aqua, tell me what are all those containers running in my Kubernetes environment right now with critical problems. And you can see that these are all the different containers running with critical problems in my sock shop namespace. Okay, so I even have got a WordPress service that's running. So let's see what happens when I click on WordPress. Right, so you can see that when I click on WordPress, it's going to tell me a lot of information. It's going to tell me immediately that, okay, it's considered critical in this case because this web server is actually running on top of HTTPD 2.4.28 image, right? And basically this image has got two critical vulnerabilities, and I actually have got one container running in Kubernetes that is created based on this image. Okay, so based on this risk explorer over here, I'm also telling you that, okay, this container is also making network connections, right? So immediately I'll be able to understand how this container is communicating with other containers. Okay, so if there's any anomalies here, you will be able to detect them right away. So again, if I'm interested to actually look at more details of this running container, I can click on the details of this running container, and then it's going to go in and tells me the security status of this running container. So right now, I can explore vulnerabilities within this container, right? And you can see that immediately all those vulnerabilities belonging to this container image will be displayed here according to their CVE or their DB security number and so on. And you can see that I've got this critical vulnerability that affects APT, right? So the good news is that in the first 30 minutes of installing Aqua, I'm going to tell you that, okay, you have a vulnerability, a critical one on this image. It affects a running container, right? You're running on this version, but don't worry, it's a fix, right? All you have to do is to upgrade your container image, right? The APT in your container image to this version, and then you will be able to remediate this vulnerability. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Okay, but I don't just give you details about your running containers. I also give you details about your infrastructure, right? So in my environment, I've got 2 worker nodes, right? It's a very simple Kubernetes environment with 2 worker nodes. And right now, I'm able to drill into the security status of my worker nodes. And you can see that there are actually 17 critical vulnerabilities affecting one of my worker nodes over here. Okay, so you can see that I'm already scanning the host with Aqua out of the box. And if there are any vulnerabilities, I am going to display them. And you can see that there are so many critical vulnerabilities affecting my worker node. And out of the box, I'm already doing compliance checks. Right? So one of those very useful checks that I'm doing is actually the CIS benchmark for Kubernetes. Right? So out of the box, I'm going to scan your Kubernetes configuration to help you understand if there's any security misconfiguration. And if I show more, you can see that you basically understand this is the command I'm using. This is the expected result. This is your result, and basically how you should be remediating the control, the configuration over here. Okay, so this is really what you're getting out of the box. And we don't just do CIS benchmark checks, right? In fact, we also do penetration testing against your cluster. Right, so basically, Aqua has got Kube Hunter, and Kube Hunter is an open source tool by Aqua that I'll show you later. And out of the box, we do penetration testing against your cluster, right, to look out for security issues. Right, so in this case, you can see that out of the box, I found a privilege escalation issue. This is the description, and where possible, we actually display the evidence of how we were sure that you have got this vulnerability within your environment. Okay, so these are really some of the details that you get out of the box. Okay, but one of the things I want to share with you is that to perform the CIS benchmark check in Kube Hunter test, there's no need for you to buy the enterprise solution. We offer these functionalities out of the box, right, to you. Okay, so you see, if you go to github.com/aquasecurity/kubebench, you will see that we actually have got kubebench over here. And by following the instructions, you will see that this is an example of the report that is displayed. Right, so this is free for you to use, right, and you can download it. If you're interested in Kube Hunter to perform penetration testing against your Kubernetes clusters, go to aquasecurity/Kube Hunter, and you will be able to browse the page, right, even become a contributor, and also, access the instructions for quickly performing penetration tests against your running clusters. Okay, so this is really what you're getting out of the box. Right, but one of the most important concepts that I want to show you today is what we call enforcing the concept of container immutability. Right, so we all know that a running container should not mutate. Okay, so out of the box, Aqua, right, we have what we call is runtime policies designed to perform runtime protections of your running containers. And basically, runtime protection for your running containers means we protect containers when they're running. Okay, we do not just do vulnerability scans, but we protect containers when they're running. So how do we do it? It's very simple. It's just one single checkbox. And what it does is that we look at your container image. If there are 10 executables in the container image, we will whitelist this 10. If somebody tries to introduce a new executable into a container after it starts up, we are going to block it. Okay, because a running container should not change. If it changes, it's a very key indicator of an attack. Right, so what we want to do is to prevent the change from happening. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so let me just hop on to my terminal over here. So you can see that I have a terminal over here. I'm going to show you two scenarios. I'm going to show you without Aqua protecting the container. I'm going to show you what happens after Aqua is protecting the container. Okay, so I'm going to do a very simple Docker exec over here into a running WordPress server container that I have. Okay, so this running WordPress server container has got a very big file upload vulnerability that allows an attacker to upload any files into a running container and then execute that file. Okay, so let's see what happens inside this container. Oops, sorry. Let me just do this again. Okay, so let's get into the running container again. Right, I'm going to run the ps command. You can see that when I run the ps command within the container, it's just a bunch of Apache processes. Okay, so this is how the container should behave. Okay, but I said there's a vulnerability within this container. Okay, so this vulnerability allows me to inject a malware into the running container. So I have got a very simple Python script, and what this Python script does is to inject a crypto miner into the running container. Okay, and again, this crypto miner has got no signature. Okay, because this crypto miner is a custom payload that was created for the purpose of this demo. Okay, so now that my crypto miner has been injected successfully using my Python script, if I get back into the container and I run the ps command, okay, you see this time it's not just Apache processes, we have got a new process that is running. Okay, so I have just managed to successfully change the running container. Okay, so so in order to confirm that the malware is running, you can see that if I perform top on the host, you can see that systemd.elf is running close to 100% CPU within the container. Okay, so what we'll do now? Okay, what we'll do now is to turn on Aqua and let's see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on Aqua and I can see that the vulnerability still exists. Okay, I'm going to quickly just do a restart of that running container and then we can redo this again. Okay, and if I run the same exploit again, this time Aqua protecting, you can see the vulnerability still exists, but this time when I try to run systemd.elf, it's blocked. Okay, it's blocked, right? And the reason is because systemd.elf was not part of the original container image. It was introduced after the container starts up. I don't care what is it, I'll just block it. Okay, so this is what performing container immutability does, right, in your environment. Within the first 30 minutes, your containers will be protected this way. Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk to you quickly about is it's about virtual patching for containers, right? So basically, one of the big problems that we have is that every day you're running containers where we've got new critical vulnerabilities. Okay, and some of these critical vulnerabilities can be exploited by attacker over the network, right? So vShield, right, or virtual patching for containers, which is a technique pioneered by Aqua, is designed to protect your container against exploitation until your developers have a fix. Okay, and this is what we are doing over here, right? So you can see I've got a CV over here. It affects a PHP library over here. So let's try and exploit this PHP library. Okay, let me just go back into my running container. Okay, so basically, if I were to run a simple code request, right, you can see that when I target this PHP file and I say I want to dump out the contents of etc password, the attack is successful, right? So in order to protect against this vulnerability, right, so all I have to do, right, is to turn on the virtual patch for this vulnerability, right? So let me just turn on this virtual patch. The container is still running, but now I'm going to turn on virtual patching that will protect the container until the image can be fixed. Right, so if I just go back now and to my terminal, right, /06, you can see that this time the container still runs, vulnerability is still there, but this time is an empty output. Right, so with vShield, I was able to immediately protect the running container. And again, these virtual patches are available out of the box, right, in 30 minutes after you install Aqua immediately. Okay, and then of course, you know, one of the things we always talk about is shifting security layer. Right, so Aqua has the ability to perform scanning of your container images to give you to tell you what the issues inside your container images. But one of the things I want to share with you is dynamic analysis of container images. Okay, so this is something new that is pioneered by Aqua and is designed to look out for malware right? We did images that static scans cannot find. Okay, so what does this do? Right, so let me just go back into my browser. Right, so you can see over here, let me just click this. You can see over here that I've got this Alpine Toe image. It has been downloaded 100 million times. And there's actually a tag over here, right, 0.17. Okay, let's see. If you look at this tag, it's really straightforward. It's just adding curl, right, and using curl as the entry point, right? So if you're going to use static scans, you won't find any problems. But when we actually scan this using dynamic analysis method, right, we actually found that there is actually a lot of problems with this image. You can see that this image, right, is the same image over here. On startup, it actually downloaded a shell script, and eventually it was able to launch a crypto miner. Okay, so basically when we perform dynamic scan on this image, we were able to understand what are all the behaviors, right, when the image comes up. Okay, and the reason why static scans cannot find this problem is because the payload is outside the container. It's downloaded into the image after it starts up, right? Therefore, static scans will miss it, right? But with dynamic scans, I can find all these problems, right? I can give you forensics to tell you what exactly are all these different processes doing, as well as even giving you the PCAP captures of network traffic, right? So if you look at this shell script, right, we actually deconstruct the payload, right? And eventually we're able to come up with this information that it was running a crypto miner. And if you look at this IP address, right, it's actually communicating with a host in Iran. Okay, so this is actually a malware that is mining for cryptocurrency for Iran. Okay, so but of course I wanted to share with you free tools as well, right? So this is dynamic scanning. It's a SaaS model. It's paid for. But if you want to you know, perform static scanning, right, to look out for vulnerabilities, I want to introduce you to 3D, right, from Aqua Security. You can very easily integrate this into your pipeline. And what 3D does is really straightforward. In fact, this is one of the last things that I will show you today before we sum it up. Right, so what 3D actually does is, you know, if I have, after I basically, you know, installed 3D, right, and basically to install 3D is just an apt get command or is just a yum install command, and they can get those instructions from the 3D GitHub page. You can see that when I perform a scan, right, for this CentOS OS over here, right, so this is actually the image, and you can see that using 3D, I immediately understood that there are 737 vulnerabilities within this CentOS image, right, of which 9 of them are critical, right? So if I want to actually get more information, I can don't grab for total. I can just run 3D followed by the image name, and then I'm going to have all the details of the vulnerabilities displayed here, right, in my console, or I can integrate into my pipeline. But the best thing is that I tell you that, you know, if this is the package you're using, this is the version you're using, but very importantly, we tell you what is the fix, right, how you can fix it. Okay, and this is really 3D. Okay, so if I just go back into my screen over here, right, go back into 3D, and you can see that 3D is free for use. So if you want to, you know, integrate with your CI tools, you can follow the instructions. If you want to install in Ubuntu, it's just this command, and you can start scanning for images just like me. Okay, so if I just, you know, go back to my slide again, right? So basically, I've shown you how you can secure the infrastructure using CloudSploit, how you can baseline environment, immediately protect your environment out of the box, how you can secure your artifacts using dynamic analysis by Aqua. You can make use of 3D, which is a free open source tool for you to scan the images, right? But of course, you know, there are many other things I haven't talked about, but you know, I just want to quickly touch on them, right? So as far as you know, the last step is concerned, these are really more specific controls that you can do using Aqua. For example, if an image is non-compliant with your enterprise security policy, I can prevent them from running. If you want to perform firewalling between 2 containers in your Kubernetes clusters, you can make use of Aqua to perform container-to-container firewalling. If you want to make use of Aqua to secure your secrets and inject secrets securely into your running workloads, you can make use of Aqua as well. Okay, so if I really want to sum up, right, let me just go into the summary slide over here. Oops, demo. Right, so these are the key takeaways today, right? So basically, you know, with Aqua security, right, you will be able to immediately secure your containers in the first 30 minutes, right? We discover the environment, we tell you what containers they're running is vulnerable. I show you how we can very easily perform container immutability and also to perform vShell, which is virtual caching for containers. I show you how we can very easily integrate into pipeline tools by performing static scans using 3D. I show you how we can do dynamic threat analysis using Aqua for dynamic scans. Right, so I also talked about emission control, and finally we talk about fine-grained workloads with container firewalls as well as secrets injection. Okay, so basically with these measures, with a combination of tools by Aqua, right, the diagram where you have sad faces earlier is going to be happy faces all around for everybody right now. Okay, so basically as the next step, I know some of the things in Aqua you got to pay. Right, but here are some of those links, right, that you can take down right now. You can take a photo or something, and then you can start to explore these open tools from Firstploit to scan your infrastructure, to 3D to scan your images, to Kubebench and KubeHunter for better Kubernetes security. Okay, so what I'll do now is, yeah, so basically this is my email address over here. If you're interested to explore more, to discuss more about how Aqua can help you from an enterprise perspective, please feel free to reach out to us. And of course, I just want to leave you with the official ways to get connected with DevOps Indonesia, right? So DevOps Indonesia can be connected in a variety of ways, right? And so you can basically connect right here. Right, so a parting message from the organizers: alone we are smart, together we are brilliant, and we always encourage the sharing of knowledge. So I think that is all I have. So yeah, so Mia, are you still there? Vishnu, I see there are a lot of questions over here. Do we still have any time for questions, or should we reach out individually via email?
Okay, thank you, Zhihao, for your presentation. We have questions, a lot of questions, but we will only choose 2 questions. First one is from Ridwan Bejo. How Aqua Security manage those huge knowledge base about security and make it keep up to date?
Okay, so regarding the first question, how Aqua Security manage the vulnerability database? So Aqua Security, we maintain our own vulnerability database, and it's actually a cloud-based solution, right? So basically, as far as the cloud solution is concerned, we call it the Aqua Cyber Center, and the Aqua Cyber Center has got many different trackers that will look out for threats on the internet. We will basically look at feeds from different security trackers like NVD, like the Debian security tracker, even exploit database like ExploitDB, and we even have our own anti-malware feeds as well, right? So the end result to you is that there's no need for you to maintain anything or to keep track of anything, right? You make use of our scanning solution, you automatically point to the Aqua Cyber Center, and from there you will always have the most up-to-date information about vulnerabilities in your environment. Okay, Mia, second question.
Okay, thank you. For the second question from Altaf Raja, how do you take care of forensic if a container is gone?
How do we take care of forensics if a container is gone? Wow, that is a really interesting question, right? Because containers, they are transient, right? And actually one of the things I didn't show you is that, as far as containers are concerned, right, we actually keep audit of every single activity, right? I didn't have the time to show you just now because of time constraint, but if you look at the malware example that I showed you earlier, actually what is going on behind is that I will be able to give you information like what is the name of the image where this event has happened, what is the name of the container, what is the process ID, what is the effective user within the container, what is the command executed by the container within the container, what is the parent process, and so on. Right, so all these activities are actually keep track of in real time, and it is actually written into a database for safekeeping. So if there's any incident and you want to do forensics at a later time, you can always pull out this data from our audit database, and it will help you to understand the full picture.
Okay. Thank you, Zhihao, for your presentation. Dan untuk teman-teman, rekan-rekan semua yang pertanyaannya belum terjawab, mungkin bisa menghubungi Zhihao via email. Nanti akan kita infokan emailnya Zhihao. Dan sudah menunjukkan waktu jam 7.56. Untuk itu, waktu telah kita sudah sampai di penghujung acara, namun untuk sesi hari ini, kami dari komunitas DevOps Indonesia meminta tolong bantuan untuk semua rekan-rekan terkait dengan feedback meetup kita pada malam hari ini. Mas Wisnu akan share pollingnya. Silakan Mas Wisnu untuk di-share. Teman-teman nanti akan ada muncul pollingnya, silakan untuk diisi. Baik, terima kasih untuk rekan-rekan yang sudah mengisi feedback-nya. Tidak terasa, kita telah di penghujung acara. Saya dan Mas Wisnu, perwakilan dari DevOps Indonesia, mengucapkan terima kasih untuk rekan-rekan yang telah menyempatkan waktunya bergabung di Meetup Online DevOps Indonesia. Semoga apa yang telah disampaikan oleh Zhihao bermanfaat untuk kita semua. Jangan lupa untuk rekan-rekan tetap menjaga kesehatan, cuci tangan menggunakan sabun, tetap di rumah aja, dan yang paling penting, jangan mudik dulu demi kebaikan kita bersama, dan mari kita patuhi imbauan dari pemerintah. Saya mengucapkan terima kasih dan mohon maaf bila ada kekurangan atau salah kata, dan saya juga mengucapkan selamat menjalankan bulan puasa Ramadan bagi rekan-rekan yang melaksanakan. Dan presentasi pada hari ini akan kami share di grup Telegram DevOps Indonesia. Oke, Mas Wisnu sudah share screen-nya ya. Silakan untuk rekan-rekan stay connected di sosial media kita di Telegram, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, karena info terkait next meetup dan tentunya materi pada hari ini akan kami share di sosial media tersebut. Thank you, Zhihao, for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Ya.
Stay safe. Take care.
Oke, terima kasih semuanya. Sampai jumpa di meetup selanjutnya. Saya Mia Fauzia. Selamat malam.